Okay.
Whatever.
Let's do
Tell
Dan
me.
Cam.
Hold on. Let me get over to
Ready?
Teams so I can.
Ready.
Ready.
Ready. Okay. Hey. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the 365 Message Center Show. We have talk about data loss prevention in Microsoft Teams. We have several new updates for Outlook for the web, and Autodesk preview are coming to OneDrive and SharePoint. Let's get to it.
Man up. I had to give you the end of that. I couldn't just say
Yeah, I
man
know
up.
you did.
Right. Yeah.
So everybody doesn't know, but Darrell's been playing with the Phenomena song today, so he was in the mood
Oh,
of uh,
definitely.
of that video. Yes.
Don't you
So
sometimes have songs like that express how crazy you're feeling at the time with
yep.
all the busyness and stuff? What's your one?
Uh, like right
Well, did I
now,
really
or
put you on the
just my
spot there?
normal one that I go to.
I think a Niles Barkley "Crazy" song is pretty good with those nice ink blots. But anyway, we can't play
Right.
either of them because we don't want to be copy struck by YouTube. We'll just have
Right.
to do a parody at some point.
Yes.
Anyway, um,
Anywho's.
there's a few things that have come into the message center as usual, but I'm seeing a steady pace. That's
Yep.
my commentary over the last three weeks,
Correct.
between 7 and 10 messages each time. Wow.
Yes, it's a lot. So we've got
Mm.
great material to go through. I think there's a couple here this week that, and I feel like I say this every week, but there's a couple this week that I'm really excited about. And so this is good stuff.
Yeah.
We have good stuff to get into. So let's jump into
Okay.
it.
Let's jump into
Hey,
it.
Darrell,
Yeah.
long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. Speaking of no see, I've got to get your when we were doing our recording last time, and it was
Uh-huh.
from the Hyatt lobby. There we go. I
Yep.
turned off a certain frame because we were together. There was no need to pull in the video from two sources. There was two
Right.
guys in two chairs, probably the same two chairs from last year. Anyway, moving on. General observation, we have a major update. Keep an eye out for that, but it is roughly around Microsoft Teams, and at first
Yep.
glance, didn't seem to be major, but Daniel pointed it out to me. So let's have a look. Oh, and hey, who have we got in the chat right now?
Well, we have
Phil.
Erica and Phil
Erica.
are the
Sweet.
only ones that have spoken up right now, but I'm sure there's some lurkers.
I'm sure there's
We'll
people
get
that are
some.
listening and waiting
Yep.
and driving and etc.
Mhm.
So this first one, I'd like to talk about this one, Dan, if I can. I like
Yep.
this one.
Sure.
One of my bugbears, one of my irks is, or thorns in my side, is when people book my time and haven't checked to see if I'm truly available, and they have
Hmm.
the power to do so. Now,
Hmm.
not so much at Adopt and Embrace because we're good practice, right? But in previous lives, where companies
Sure.
are a lot bigger, then we kind of just book a meeting, and sometimes we're not leaving buffer for ourselves to go and do other things,
Right.
and it's just back-to-back meetings.
Yep.
This lovely feature here comes to Outlook on the web. It is the Smart Time Suggestions, and it will help actually bring that information in front of you without having to go into the scheduling assistant. It's going to do something
Mhm.
very basic. Who have you invited? Right, where's a time that you're all available?
Hmm.
I'd find that useful. How about you?
Yes, and I mean, we've had versions of this kind of functionality for a while. In
Mm.
Outlook desktop, we've had this where you could click a button and it would suggest was a plugin that suggested times.
Mm-hmm.
Find Time does this at the beginning, where
Mm-hmm.
you pick out times and it'll show you those that it has access to, the calendars. It'll show you their availability. So we've had some of this, but I think it's kind of a lot of people don't think about, well, I need to make sure that I get a good time where everybody's available. Now, I I think most people are getting, in my work life, it happens more often than not that it is people notice when I'm not available. But there's
Mm-hmm.
those times when it's like you just scheduled them. For instance, I was in a plant in a plane, on a plane. I was on a plane this past week ago Friday, and I couldn't be in a meeting, and someone scheduled a meeting. I said and it was a pretty important project. I'm like, I can't be there, and you kind of know that I'm out of office. I mean, those times it's very helpful to be able to see who's available and be able to schedule it. I think it's a great thing. Do you use some sort of functionality like that, Darrell, when you schedule meetings?
I use the scheduling assistant. I do occasionally use Find Time when it involves people outside of my organization, because their free busy is not available to me. And this is actually one of the key things. Your free busy information needs to be available. And that way it'll go across the recipients, or rather participants, attendees, and check for that availability. However, this will come to a limitation where if you're inviting 50 people individually on the two line, then it's going to be unlikely to find a clear gap for you all, unless you're happy to come into a breakfast meeting. Whee! So you might still end up needing to use something like Find Time to negotiate a time that people are happy to give up, or they prefer. That's good to see. Actually, I'm going to start liking some of these things. Click.
Great.
Yeah. Should I give it a comment? Looking forward to this. Now, I know I could type out a full thing, but I just wanted to draw your attention that if you do like a certain message, this is another way to give feedback, and that way you're helping refine the portal. Anyway, let's do that. Moving on.
You're moving on up.
Yep.
To URL views in Threat Explorer. I don't know. That was terrible. This one is. This was great, right? Don't you think? Being able to drill down to see what the URLs are when we have issues with threats coming in for us.
Yeah, what I like about this is it's giving admins and perhaps security teams, if we get quite specific, more visibility over what is coming into the org, who might be actually clicking on it, and then that actually helps the security team and potentially trainers to come along and say, hey, it looks like you need a bit more help around recognizing what might be risky or not. The good thing about it is that it is... there is a level of protection. But before we go any further, as we read through this, it's like, oh, great, this is awesome. Now, does this appear in everyone's tenants, Daniel?
Well, just reading the announcement, I would say so, because it doesn't say anything particularly needed for this one. What do you think, Darrell?
Well, I think that given that all messages appear in your tenant based on your capabilities within your tenant and your features and your license set, isn't that how it works? No, not all the time.
Not all the time.
We click on through to the additional information, and we want to point out that even though it feels like another click, it does help to do this, because sometimes it does give you this additional information. Is everyone covered? Does everyone get this feature? No.
And we have this because we both are using E5s for this. This user we're looking at, but basically you have to have the Advanced Threat Protection Plan 2, Office 365 Plan 2, and you have to have the necessary permissions, and then you'll be able to use Threat Explorer. So just let you know, don't get too excited about this one unless you are. You meet those requirements.
Yeah, definitely. But as you get into... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Let's go ahead. It does give you a lot of, high-level information around the types of threats that you're seeing. Yes, you can go down and see what are these common URLs. You might even be able to identify a trend there that certain messages have been sent as something of a campaign or a wave to people in your org, and then you can create some comms around that to make other people more aware. Keep an eye out for this. I saw one this morning. I think someone was commenting about, it was Matt Wade, and he said that looks like the phishing people are out, and it was one that looked like an Office 365 message. And it said, you're coming to the limit of your mailbox. Click here to get 20 more gigs. Right.
Which, who doesn't want 20 more gigs?
Yeah, give me more space. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. So yeah, that's the sort of thing it's going to check, and then you'll be able to see that poor old Matt Wade clicked on that link, and you'll come around and you'll give him some additional training.
Nice.
I hope I won't get in trouble with him. Let's keep it moving, I guess. Yeah, when I go to like the next message or the previous message, it'd be really nice if it sort of jumped up, and rather than me having to scroll back to the top.
So this is MC176089, Task Pane and Outlook for the Web.
Oh yeah!
Yay! I'm excited about this. Well, I really am.
It relates to
the tasks bringing in to do into Outlook, and we've talked about this before. They announced that they would be integrating those and making sure that that experience was coming in. And in fact, when you go to the additional information, you have to choose your version to see the instructions, and that's basically whether To Do has been integrated with Outlook for your tenant yet or not. This is fantastic. I'm all for bringing that task experience. I don't want separate tasks. We've talked about that. And bringing that task experience into Outlook. Now, this is for Outlook on the web, Darrell.
Yes.
And I'm kind of wanted to point that out as far as some of the announcements today, because that's where the innovation is coming, is Outlook on the web first. And that's because they can just push it out and they don't have to update your client on your desktop, right?
Yeah. Looking behind the scenes too, the owner or the group that owns this service is Exchange Online, and they can make changes. It's all web-based, so no problems there. But when they have to make a change to the Office applications on your desktop, they have to coordinate with the applications team, and they have to queue up their updates, and it's got to be in the next wave. The frequency of those updates is less in their control. Now, remember, they all work together, and they're all part of delivering the service, but it's just that recognition. I like that you pointed out that this is the first time I've seen where it's giving you support and letting you choose whether am I trying out this preview experience where I'm looking at Outlook on the web and the new Outlook on the web, or am I still using the classic view?
Right.
And yeah, you go there and you can get different sets of instructions. We see that a second time later on.
Yep. It's cool. I like it.
But yeah, I mean, the usage part of this here, and I wish I had sort of jumped into here. I'd be flying by the seat of my pants if I... let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Darrell, what are you getting into? Opening a new tab. Just wanted to point out where this sits, right? So we saw a couple of weeks ago that To Do has been brought into Outlook and into Exchange Online. So when we go down to our... there's our tasks at the bottom. Oops, my face was over that. Let's push that over there. While it's still loading. Tasks was down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Even looks like a To-Do icon. Yep. So that launches To Do, but within the Outlook experience. Cool, that's good. What we saw from demos at Ignite was, hang on, there's this other tasks pane that is available to us when we're in our mailbox or in our calendar. And I don't have that yet, but we're expecting it to be up here by
I do.
You do?
I do.
Jealous. Is it where I'm pointing?
It is. It's right there. And it looks exactly like what the preview did.
Yep.
So it definitely is right there.
Do you want to do a little 5-minute this is what it looks like video, and we'll tack it on to the show later on?
I sure can.
5 minutes. No longer.
I could do less than 5 minutes if you want. But...
All right. Yep. 2 minutes then. Yep.
Yay.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. That's good. We're giving you value. Thank you, everyone, for viewing right now. Check the card at the top of our video, and I'll link to that so that you can find Daniel's video once it's ready. But that's bringing it closer to where you are working, right? Rather than having to go off to a separate task pane, you can drag your emails over, create a task and say, I need to respond to this, or maybe there's a task that's related to what's in the email, and then you can also manage your tasks alongside your calendar. My favorite thing is dragging that task out to the calendar and setting some focus time in there, an appointment for myself to keep so that I'm going to do it. Okay. Task pane, data loss prevention for Teams, chat, and channel messages, which I must be honest, I know there's been a lot of talk around it. I kind of thought that this was already in there, but I might be confusing this with the ability to run e-discovery across Teams chat
Right.
channels. That's been around for a while. Darrell, lost
Yeah.
mention. Let me just say, guys and girls, don't talk about your credit card numbers with your team members.
Right. Don't be doing
Yeah,
that.
come on now. You know what? We're going to put something in the place there that is going to stop you from doing that.
Yep.
This is also going to protect you if you are in the chat space within Teams, which is where I could be communicating with Daniel, who's outside of my organization, and it's going to look for the personally identifiable information and other sensitive things. It'll block it.
That's huge because because what you just mentioned, we have the external members, and you may be in an organization that has sensitive information that you've defined in DLP that it's beyond credit card numbers. But I mean, just think about some things that you might actually chat about, and it really is something you chat about, but you have external users that you don't want, and so you want to make sure that they're not using the Teams chat experience to share that information with external users. Here you go, and I think this is great, and it also gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling, to your security people when you're talking about rolling out Teams, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, you mean we could be chatting and sharing information that we don't want to, don't want people to be talking about with external, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm digging it.
I mean, let's be honest though. A photo of something, I mean, there's always a way around it if you need to. You can text message it, you can WhatsApp it, you can shout it across the room.
You can. This is more like mistaken, right?
Yeah,
this is more like making sure you don't make a mistake of copy paste or something like that.
Yeah.
There are ways around. I mean, if you're highly secure, then you're not, people are not going to have phones when they're working, right? And I mean, there are situations where, people go to work and they're not allowed to have phones. It's a miserable experience, but in my opinion, anyway. So I think this is a good thing.
Yep. Just a quick salute there to planned maintenance. Yam is constantly doing maintenance. Good to know, but we don't have much to say about that. Just that it happened.
Constantly doing maintenance.
Yeah. New feature, the Autodesk integration with DWG files. Your middle name isn't William, is it, Daniel Glenn? Because then we could say they're your files.
Well, that's kind of personal question to ask in front of everyone.
Okay. Francis? Gertrude? Okay, let's move along. Autodesk integration.
Autogration.
Yeah, no, I just made a word up there. It's perfect. Files in new Office 365. Right, so we do have a number of different file viewers, but why is this one important to your customers, Daniel?
Well, this is kind of big. I mean, obviously for those organizations that deal with these files, because we've been talking about moving your files into OneDrive, right, and making sure they're protected and getting versioning and all of that. Get off your file servers. And I just did a move for an organization, engineering firm. They were saving all of their files on their desktop, and they were backing up to a NAS, which was basically just a hard drive plugged into the network. I mean, that's all it was.
Yep.
And they were backing up to that, and they were saving everything in file folders, physical ones. We transitioned them all to all digital, so they're no longer file folders. They're doing everything in SharePoint sites when they're doing Teams, and then they're saving the personal files into OneDrive, so it's syncing and versioning. And the biggest gap that we had was Autodesk, was their drawings. How do we make sure that those drawings are not lost? And they were not able to sync and all that, or they were able to sync them but not able to view them. And so this is big because you're able to view files, preview files, and not have to open them up and see what they are. You don't have to open up and say, oh, what is this one? Oh, what is this one? You can preview them. I'm digging it. And for organizations that have these, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and look, DWG files big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Huge.
They're usually quite raw and huge, and and that's part of the thing, that if you have to download them each time and go, is this the right one? Oops, this one hasn't been renamed properly. You wait. Oh, that's down. That's why the viewer is useful. Check it out.
Yes.
This is what I'm after. Right, I'll work with it. And if you're
Exactly.
using OneDrive, sync on demand, files on demand, then you're able to leverage that to download it in the background.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that I might have read somewhere too that there was a partnership between Microsoft and Autodesk that kind of came a little closer, and that's why we've seen some more efforts around integration.
Maybe so.
I'll see if I can find some reference for that for the show notes.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So here's the one that is a major update, and I looked at it and went,
Hmm.
so what? I can control people who sign up for a commercial cloud trial, and I thought,
Hmm.
yeah, great. But what's the impact of this, Daniel? Like, how does this help an org?
Well, this is more than just, oh, they can sign up for a trial. That's great. This is has everything to do with being able to provide access to Teams to those that don't have access to it via their license.
Right.
So, and not only that, but it's also for a year trial.
Hmm.
So this is not just a regular trial. And you're not, let's be honest, people are creative when they get to when they're trying to enable their users, right,
Hmm.
to work. Let's just be honest about it. And
Oh, when you say
um,
creative, do you mean like buying one license and sharing it with 5 people?
or they have them sign up for um, a free version of Teams, right? Because you can do that, and then add them as external users.
Huh. That's tricky. I haven't heard of that one, but I guess that makes sense.
Legal in that, it breaks the license. I mean, that's
Right.
not, I mean, it's clear that you're not supposed to do it that way.
Hmm.
But how do you enable your users who are not licensed without having to pay for a big license? And, if you look at frontline workers, for instance. So this is kind of like the gateway drug, if you will, the signing up your users for a 1 year trial, they get
Hmm.
using it, and then 1 year later, you're going to run into, oh, my users are using it, they love it, it's integral to their work, we've made it part of our business processes,
We've
now I've got
proven
to sign up
business
for it.
value, right? I think
That's
maybe
right.
that's the first thing. And
Yeah.
like some orgs don't realize the scale of cost when you've got
Mm,
corporate workers, you've got people that are getting an E3
yep.
license, and right, the first line and what used to be kiosk licenses, they're a lower
Hmm.
cost. They are providing a more restricted capability around the
Mm,
licenses, like a smaller mailbox or no OneDrive or something like that. But there's still a cost involved. That where
hmm.
one corporate user might be representative of 50 people in the org. That you might have quite a large population of first line workers in retail, for example. And we've seen Staff Hub and its capabilities
Hmm.
been brought into Teams, and this allows them to try that out for a year to prove its value, so that you can go back and even over that year start to budget for
Hmm.
giving that value to people that are first line workers and just using the Teams part of it.
Right.
Hmm. All right. Good to know, and it just means that you will have more control over that to make that happen. New feature: per machine install of the OneDrive sync client. I got to say, I was surprised that it isn't already a per machine thing. I probably should have checked.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not in desktop deployment, but OneDrive
Right.
installed into just your user profile beforehand.
Right. It is a per user install, meaning if you have three people sharing a computer, for instance,
Mm.
and they log in, and this can happen with a kiosk or just a shared machine. And if they're all logged in at the same time, then it's additional executables running.
Mm.
And you could have obviously multiple, right? If you have a personal or different tenants and et cetera.
Well,
So
Citrix kind of
this,
environment too. That would probably,
yeah.
yeah, be covered.
So this is when I read it, I was like, oh, this is kind of wait a minute, it didn't used to do that, and I knew it was coming, but to see it now, yeah, it's a great thing to be able to reduce the footprint for OneDrive on the machine, so that you can, it's one of those things you don't want users blaming OneDrive to slow down their machine, right? A
Yeah,
slow machine
yeah.
is a very bad thing. So
Yep.
it's good.
Yep. Um, all right. Make some changes to how you manage restricted users. Now, like, I got to encourage you, admins, as well. When you see a boring title like this, read it anyway.
Yep. Dive in.
Because there's actually some good stuff in here.
Hmm.
You were pointing out, Daniel, that restricted users could be someone that, for instance, we go back to the Matt Wade example. He's constantly clicking on bad links. Maybe we want to kind of quarantine him.
Well, and when the service sees that, a user is sending out suspicious emails, maybe that that machine has been taken over, or that user is being malicious. But it's more about really, maybe they're forwarding on emails they shouldn't be forwarding because they think it's real and it's not, those kind of things. There's a lot of examples of why that may be happening, but this allows you to manage them and to see that they're in there. The one thing I bring about this, Darrell, is this whole idea of having this, what do they call it, a portal?
Yeah.
And it's the restricted users portal within the Security and Compliance Center, which we can make a point about that in a second. But the restricted users portal, it's just a page with web parts, basically.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't call it a portal, would you?
No.
Because let's go a little wider. They say that it's in the Security and Compliance Center. All right, so that's the
Where's
message
that,
there.
Darrell?
But I'm using the preview of the new admin portal, and I've got a security center and a compliance center.
I do too. I'm not using the preview, Darrell.
Okay.
I'm old school.
They're separate,
and they're separate.
but they both
security.
point to the same thing.
They do. They point to the same URL.
Here it is, right here. Security and compliance, and then what we're going to see what was it called again? Quarantine portal.
Quarantine
Bad
portal. I like
portal?
that though. Restricted
On
users
the naughty step portal.
Yes, restricted users portal. Yes.
Yeah, so we're expecting to see a restricted users portal. I would think that it's either a sub item of something like threat management, or it's going to have its own node on the menu there to manage the.
It's a lot of. I mean, it's just a lot of. I don't know. That's messy to me, and I don't know how you fix it. To be honest, maybe it's what's important to you is you need to put web parts on your page here, on the landing page. So maybe that's how you manage it. But just there's a lot of drop downs there and a lot of sub items, and I'm just not too terribly excited about it. So
I think that this does reflect the growing role of security. They're identifying ways to manage that, to deal with threats, to preempt this kind of stuff. There's your plan for your data loss prevention, and the policies that you come up with here are going to now extend across Teams chat and channel conversations.
Yep.
Your naughty list, your bad boy step, will appear here, and you can manage those people that, look, I say this, but maybe they somehow got hacked and they've got something on the machine that's sending out random streams of spam. But that's where we'll see it. Just pointing out that the menu description in this message was a little confusing.
Yep, just a little bit.
Just a little.
More policies.
Policies.
Outlook mobile app.
Yep.
Configuration policies, Darrell.
Yeah.
This is using, when we're kind of talking about managing devices, we're talking Intune, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is that. And I don't do this daily, but I spend a little time in it and appreciate especially one particular story around this. Now, this message, or rather this update, is going to allow you to control the configuration of Outlook Mobile when you roll it out to your end users on Android and on iOS. Now, thinking of projects in the past, this was particularly an area of friction. You are coming into an organization where people might be using, and very highly likely using, the native apps on their mobiles, or they've chosen their own mail client that they prefer. And some organizations say, well, that's fine, but what we're going to support is Outlook. Sometimes they say you're not going to use anything else. Sometimes they'll say we'll give you an option. when you roll out Outlook and you're not using the native app, then it can cause some issues around contacts if people don't go through the steps that you give them to configure their mobile client. One particular one, think of a sales team, and executives, it's really important that they know who's calling them. Someone calls and you can see on the caller ID, do I want to take that call or not?
Right.
Yeah, positive, negatives of that. But what can happen when you are moving a mailbox from your old system where your native apps are connected to Exchange Online, and you're connecting Outlook to that now, there's this disconnect of, right, now the native apps can't see your contacts and your mailbox has been moved. There's all these phone numbers coming through, but no people to match the contacts.
Right. Sure.
And there is a step or two that they need to go through to do this. Now they can do this with the policy. They don't have to ask people to do it. They can lower that stress that people have when I'm cutting over, but I've heard that I lose all my contacts. No, you don't. You just haven't done a couple of steps. That's all it is.
Right. And I love anything that enhances, streamlines the user experience. And I love that. Give the users choice, and then also streamline their the process as to which when you're moving stuff over. So I love it.
Yeah. Looking closer into that, there's a lot of other settings. I'm actually going to have a good close look at this. Maybe this is my homework, that when I get it, I'll do a little explain the video of what it is.
Okay.
Because mobile's my thing. Giving your... What's that?
I was just saying one last one.
Uh-huh. Oh, is this the last one?
MC176396.
Came through today.
Yes.
Yeah. Giving your organization more transparency and control over the Microsoft 365 Cloud connected experiences for Office.
So for Office.
Breathe.
So, one word, I summarize this as telemetry. So this is basically Microsoft collects information on how you use Office that's connected to the Microsoft 365 Cloud. And it uses that information to make sure that user experiences are doing well. If everyone who, they push out something and then they get telemetry, they get information that's being fed back to them that there's a bug and there's an error that every time you open up Office, that an error happens, then they're going to see that before too many people report it and be able to proactively, address it. They can also see various features that are being used heavily and those that are not being used at all. So it gives them the ability to kind of help mold the products as well. So this is saying, basically, beginning with the 1904 version, remember they've numbered versions now that they're updating Office and Windows so much.
2019-04 is April.
That's April, correct. Then, and it's a part of the monthly channel, which is the more frequent update channel. Then you're going to be able to manage what kind of information is being sent, some of the information that's sent, and be able to see the information that's being sent. So, Darrell, do you see organizations that are worried about the information Microsoft's collecting via these experiences?
This is often left up to the user when they install Office and they get that little prompt to say, are you happy to send telemetry information through? If you've done your builds right, then you'll make the appropriate choice for your organization. Otherwise, people will make that choice or not even look at it, click next, and away you go. If this is a concern to your org where, look, I'm happy that Microsoft make these products, but look, I don't want to play a part in shaping that with our data. And I say data, it's actually usage data, right? It's not...
Right.
It's not, hey, we're using Excel and we've got this figure of our quarterly results that we're not ready to publish yet. It's going to send that through. No. It is looking at, did you click into the help box to try and remind yourself about how to do that particular feature?
And it's anonymized. I mean, it's not sending this user with this email address is doing this and blah, blah, blah. That's not what's happening. They don't get that data. They don't get to pinpoint who you are. So, and this happens across Microsoft, the platform. So we're just talking about the Office experience that's connected to Microsoft 365. So that's narrow of a scope here, but to be able to just see what's not only control, but see what is being sent. And I think that's going to be key. It gives people that feeling of, okay, fine, I can help. Because if more people turn this off, then Microsoft's not going to get a good idea as to what's going on, right? So yes, you could turn it off, but if you don't turn it on, then Microsoft's not going to see that how you're using it, right? So
Yeah.
and be able to mold the product.
Yep. So over to you.
Anyway.
At least they're giving a bit more transparency over those controls and giving you more controls over it.
Right.
And that one slipped in today, and that's the last message for this show. What's coming up? Well, we did record a really fun episode in the Microsoft Treehouse, which I know it's going to take a week or two to produce and put together. But be on the lookout for that. We talked about the custom learning portal and generally learning resources in the gorgeous environment of the Treehouse in 360.
Yes, we did.
Now you've got something too coming out shortly with Sarah.
Yeah, we recorded the third episode of the 365 chat on adoption, the coffee chat on 365 adoption, and we're going to be doing that. Hopefully next week it'll be out. So, but we were able to record that. So pretty cool stuff. We got some nice stuff. We were able to, while we were all in person, be able to do some recording. That's right. So it was nice.
Yep. MVP Summit was great for connecting and learning from each other in person.
That's right.
Last thing, our next episode might come from it should be all right. It'll be in a regular area around the world, but I'm heading over to South Africa and arriving on Thursday, and we should be able to do a few things regarding 365 on location with Mr. Elijah Bugen and Tracy van der Schyff and friends.
Wonderful.
Looking forward to it. All right, that was our people today. This is Darrell and Daniel tonight. Now, bye for now.
Anyway, bye.
See ya.